Welcome back, my friends, to another video here on the channel. Today I'm going to be finally bringing you guys a video on how to put your PS5 in 120 Hz without HDMI 2.1. So I've made a video about this on the Xbox Series X. If you guys missed that, go check out that video. The reason this video is so late is because it is a little bit more complicated on the PS5. It took a little bit of figuring out. Plus, I was trying to hammer out a bunch of Let's Plays here on the channel of all these new games, such as Spider-Man Miles Morales, which you guys can see up on screen. If you guys missed those and you're interested, check those out. But we're talking about right now how to get 120 Hz on your PlayStation 5 over HDMI 2.0. Like I mentioned in the Xbox Series X video, you can get 120 Hz on the over HDMI 2.0. You do not need HDMI 2.1. A lot of people have this misunderstanding. What HDMI 2.1 is needed for is if you want 120 Hz at 4K. HDMI 2.0 can only do 60 Hz at 4K. So if you dumb it down to 1440p or 1080p, you can get that 120. Obviously, the PS5 doesn't support 1440p. The Xbox Series X does. So on the PS5, if you want that 120 frames or 120 Hz, you're going to have to go down to 1080p. So before we jump into this, just a quick little preface on what I'm running this through. So I am running this through an Elgato 4K 60 Pro Mark II. It's only capturing at 60 frames, so you're not going to see it at 120 frames. I don't even think YouTube supports 120 frames yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. So even if I wanted to bring you guys 120 frames, YouTube I don't think supports it yet. Anyway, so and I'm running this off an LG 27GN 950. That's a monitor I personally have, but you can use whatever. Again, HDMI 2.0 only on this monitor. There's not many HDMI 2.1 available. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead into the settings here. So we're going to go to the settings. To adjust your resolution, you're going to go to screen and video. Now, this is where things get a little bit more complicated. You can adjust your resolution. So you can see that I can put it in 720p, 1080p, or 2160, which is 4K. 4K transfer rate, just don't mind that. Don't bother with that. HDR. But you can see that there's no way to adjust my refresh rate. I can check what refresh rate I'm at. So right now you can see I'm at 4K resolution at 60 Hertz. Now we know 100% I am at 60 Hertz as of right now, but there is no way to adjust you know, my refresh rate. Now, just really quick before, in case you guys are wondering, HDCP, the reason it's off for me is because I have to have it off in order to be able to capture the gameplay through an Elgato capture card. You don't really need to bother with that unless you're trying to capture gameplay. So just, you know, the fact that that's off, you don't have to copy my settings on that regard. That's just so I can capture my gameplay. Just so you guys know, that doesn't matter. If you do turn that off, by the way, there's certain things you're not going to be able to do. Like you can't play Spotify on your console if you want to. So again, you know, only turn that off if you're trying to capture gameplay. So again, this is, there's no way to do it. So how are you going to do it? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to pretty much the only game that I know of that currently supports 120 Hertz on console, which is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Now, it might work a little bit differently for each game. I'm not 100% sure, but this is how it works for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Chances are this is probably how it's going to work for most games on PS5, and it is a little bit annoying and complicated, so bear with me. Okay, cool. So I'm going to open up the settings, and we're going to go over to graphics. Now, under graphics, you can see, excuse me, ray tracing, I currently have disabled, and I'll explain why. If you hover over ray tracing, again, this is in Black Ops Cold War. You'd have to check the settings for different games, but it says ray tracing will increase the visual fidelity of the game, but if you want 120 Hertz refresh rate, basically you got to disable ray tracing. But then you can see that 120 Hertz refresh rate is still locked, but it says to enable, first of all, your TV has to support 120 Hertz. So make sure your monitor, your display, your TV, whatever, supports 120 Hertz. Because if your display is only 60 Hertz, then you're not going to get 120 no matter what. So make sure that your display actually can support up to 120 Hertz signal. Now, here's where things get complicated. You need to actually enable performance mode on your PlayStation 5 console in order to be able to unlock this. And the weird thing is this actually stays locked. It'll just enable on its own, but it still remains locked. So you can't like disable it or enable it in game. So first thing you want to do for Black Ops Cold War anyways is disable ray tracing. Now check the settings for whatever game you're playing. Again, there's not many games at launch that support 120 Hertz. So we're going to go here. We have that disabled. Now we're going to close the game. Make sure you close the game. So you're going to close the game and we're going to go back to settings here. Now that we're in settings, we're going to go all the way down to saved data and game/app settings. So you're going to click on that. Okay, then you're going to scroll down to game presets. Now under game presets, you can actually adjust if you want, brand new games to automatically set themselves to easy or normal or hard. But under that, there's performance mode or resolution mode. Now by default, it says game default. So whatever the game default, whatever developer set as the default for the game is what it's going to be. So for example, Miles Morales defaults to fidelity mode, but something like Demon Souls, it defaults to performance mode. But you're going to have to actually go in here and select performance mode. So enable performance mode specifically, and then you're going to exit this and you're going to reboot Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War or whatever other game you are playing. Okay, so what just happened there? There's a little bit of a cut in the video because my Elgato actually stopped recording, because as soon as I booted up Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, it actually automatically switched the refresh rate, and I'll show you guys exactly. I could actually see in my Elgato settings that it is actually switched from 60 FPS to 120 in my Elgato settings, which is why my Elgato rebooted and all that good stuff. So now that we're in here, we're going to go down and we're going to go to graphics, and you can see 120 hertz is now enabled. So now we're going to go back to the settings just to confirm in the video output settings. We're going to go back down to screen and video. We're going to go to video output information, and you can see that I am at 1080p 120 hertz. Now again, to be able to do 120 hertz over HDMI 2.0, you cannot do it in 4K. Now if I had an HDMI 2.1 port on this monitor, then it would have remained in 4K at 120 hertz. So if you ever do get an HDMI 2.1 screen, there's a couple TVs out there right now, even though there's a few of them. There's no monitors out there, out there right now that support HDMI 2.1. There's supposed to be some coming maybe like early 2021, but you can still get 120 at 1080p for now. So now I'm gonna go back into the game. I'll show you guys a quick little look. We're gonna jump to a game just really quickly and see how everything flows. Okay, so we are in a game, and on your guys' end, you can't really see how smooth it is. On my end, I could tell you that it's like really, oh my goodness, I'm getting shot at. I'm playing against bots. On my end, I can see that it's extremely smooth. Like, it is very smooth. But of course, we have things like ray tracing that has unfortunately been disabled. Not like it matters, because, wow, dude, are the bots that good? Maybe I should have put no bots. If that was even a possibility. So if we go to graphics, you can see that, ray tracing is disabled. You cannot enable ray tracing if you're in 120. And just like that, we're at 120. It's buttery smooth on my end. Even though there's no ray tracing, the reflections, the lighting is still pretty freaking good. This is not the best map actually for lighting. It's a cloudy day. But I mean, it's rainy, so you can see, some of the puddles and stuff. Still looks really good. Each game might work differently, so whenever more games start supporting 120 hertz that come out, Rainbow Six Siege is supposed to get an update. It's supposed to support 120 hertz. I don't think it's out yet at the time of recording this. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's supposed to get 120 hertz. The setting, it might work a little bit differently, but I'm assuming most games are going to work the same way, that you're going to have to go into your settings, put it into performance mode in the system settings, and then you'll be able to enable the 120 hertz. If I want to go back to 60 hertz, let's say I want to go back to 4K, because obviously I can't do 4K 120 over HDMI 2.0. What I'm going to be able to do is I'm just going to, I could just quit the game like we did before. Okay, so again, my Elgato actually rebooted itself when I exited the game, because as soon as I exit the game, it defaults back to 60 hertz because the UI itself on PlayStation runs at 60 hertz. So if we go back to our settings here, you're going to actually see under screen and video that my information is going to show 4K at 60 hertz. So it kind of like automatically switches whenever you go into a game that supports 120 hertz. It seems like that's how it's going to work. So again, I don't know how other games are going to work. That's how Black Ops Cold War works. I would assume it'll be the same thing with other games. It's a little bit annoying and tedious. So as long as you have basically the setting down here under saved data and game app settings, as long as you have the preset set to performance mode as your default, then whatever game supports 120 hertz, it'll automatically set it to 120 hertz. So if at any point you don't want to be playing at 120 hertz, you want to re-enable the ray tracing, like let's say Black Ops Cold War, you have to come back into this setting and you have to put it back to game default. So then, you'll be able to actually play back at, 4K 60, for example, right? With ray tracing, etc. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you come back into this setting and, put it back to the default. So Hopefully that helped you guys out. It's very, very confusing on PS5. I don't know why they don't just have a simple setting like Xbox does, where you can just, you know, tweak your refresh rate, you know, and you know, it's just as simple as that. But you know, it is what it is. I'm thankful that I finally figured it out. If you guys found it useful, is what I'm trying to say. Be sure to leave it a like, subscribe, guys. We do a variety of gaming content here on the channel. You know, gameplays, let's plays, gaming news, talk about games. We play the games, best of both worlds. So keep it locked. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If there's anything else you want to see from PS5 or Xbox Series X, let me know that as well. I'll be happy to bring you guys more videos on these consoles if there's anything specific you guys want to see. That said, that's going to wrap this one up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys very soon in another video. Stay safe, stay well, and until the next one, my friends, game on.